Wow. Anyway, hey there guys, what's up? It's Autobot Mike 18 here with another TV episode review. Guys, I'm going to try to gain my composure back after that final 10 minutes of that mid-season finale. Gotta breathe a little bit. Anyway guys, what's up? I just got done watching the mid-season finale for The Walking Dead. That's right, guys. This is Season 5, Episode 8, titled Coda. And this is the final episode before the 2-month hiatus until the show will return in February for the final 8 episodes of Season 5. Now, guys, when you look at it, I know a lot of people automatically are upset that we got to wait for another 2 months. And yes, I do agree if anyone says, oh, wow, this 8-episode airings, all these 8 episodes that just aired these past 8 weeks went by so fast. I will completely agree with that. It just feels like the show just started. Nevertheless, we've arrived at the mid-season finale, and now we have to wait until February for the show to come back. When you think about it, it's actually not that long. It's about 2 months long until early February when the show will come back. Nevertheless, I think a lot of people were anticipating tonight's mid-season finale, myself included, especially after the setup that occurred last week on last week's episode. I think a lot of people were hoping for some sort of epic showdown to go on between the members of the Grady Memorial Hospital and Rick's group, the rescue team that is going after Beth and Carol. And I think we kind of got that with this episode in the final 10 minutes. Before that, however, nothing really exciting happens. Anyway, guys, with all that said, let's get into my actual review for the mid-season finale. By the way, spoilers. Spoiler heavy. If you haven't seen the episode yet, don't watch this review until you've seen the episode. Then come back and watch it. Anyway, guys, so getting into the mid-season finale. Episode basically picks up where last week's episode left off, right where last week's episode left off, with that Sergeant Lamson guy, or whoever, the guy who knocked Sasha out and escaped, heading back to the hospital to warn Dawn and the other cops. He's running on foot. He's in a pretty interesting montage at the beginning of the episode. You see shots of his feet running, and then you see shots of him trying to cut the what do you call it? Cut the plastic handcuffs that are on him. And Rick's chasing him, of course. Rick obviously must have found out that he knocked Sasha out and is running to alert the others. So Rick gets in a police car, chases him, hits him with the car, which was... excuse me, guys, which was very funny, by the way. Just seeing that sergeant guy, Jasper Sitwell from Captain America the Winter Soldier, get hit by the car was pretty damn hilarious. And then he's like, "Ow, I think you broke my back." And then Rick just gets out and just executes him with this. He just pulls out the Magnum, and like this, it's going down and down, more down every single time Rick pulls it out. Season 1, it was like this, Rick holding it normal. But now it keeps going like this, more and more and more, and then he just executes him. And I was waiting for Rick to actually do that. It's been a while since Rick just cold out, just completely executed someone, last time being Gareth. Sorry guys, need water. And I thought that was pretty awesome. And after he kills him, he says, "Shut up," to the dead body, which I thought was pretty awesome. So, I was kind of glad Rick did that. You know what? The guy didn't listen to him. He didn't slow down, and he betrayed them. So, yeah, Rick had every right to kill him, basically. Getting back to the storyline with Father Gabriel and, what's their face? Michonne and Carl. Father Gabriel is walking around. He actually goes to the side of the elementary school where, the termites barbecued Bob's leg, and he actually sees the leg, and takes a Bible, gets swarmed by walkers, runs back to the church, of course, and is struggling to get in, but of course the group barricaded the church and nailed the front door shut when they left to go get Beth and Carol. So Carl and Michonne are in there, and they hear Gabriel pleading to open the door. They get the door open in time, but end up letting walkers in the process. They escape through the floorboard in Gabriel's office that Gabriel created at the end of last week's episode. And they get outside and they seal the walkers into the church. So they're all outside, and the walkers are all trapped outside. And just to sum up that storyline, just to move on from that storyline, they're all stuck outside, and they're wondering what to do. They're wondering what their next move is. And I think we all expected that at some point the church was going to get swarmed. Because if you remember correctly, I think it was Carl who said it a few episodes back. We can't. I think he said it last episode. Actually, he told Gabriel, we can't stay in one place at one time. It's just not going to happen. We're always going to have to be on the move. Either Carl or Rick said that. One of them. I don't remember. But anyway, a fire truck shows up just in the nick of time as the walkers are starting to break from the inside of the church to the outside. Fire truck shows up. Abraham and the group have arrived back at the church, and they are here to save the day. And that group, of course, is consisting of Abraham, Glenn, Maggie, Tara, Rosita, and Eugene, who's still sort of unconscious a little bit. You see a shot of him in the back of the fire truck, just laying down, passed out. But they come and save them, and of course Gabriel and Carl and Michonne get in the fire truck. Before they do, Michonne lets Maggie know that, because they ask, where's the group? First off, however, Maggie and Glenn, they reveal to them that Eugene was lying, so now Michonne and Carl and Gabriel know the truth, that the mission to DC was a failure, as we have found out recently. And then Michonne breaks the news to Maggie that the group went after Beth in Atlanta at the Grady Memorial Hospital. And Maggie finally breaks down. It's how many episodes has it been? Like 7 episodes since the season 5 premiere. We haven't heard Maggie mention Beth's name since then. Okay, since then, finally tonight Maggie breaks and she's like, "Oh yes, let's go after Beth." So that group now in the fire truck, they get in the fire truck and head off to Atlanta to assist Rick and the others as they are preparing to get ready for this exchange, as Rick wants to get back Carol and Beth. So then you basically have a scene from Rick and the group's storyline. Now that this Sergeant Lamson guy is dead, Rick first off tells them all that Lamson was eaten alive by walkers, which we all know was a lie. Rick shot him violently in the head because Rick has a bloodlust, and it's real, and it's happening. You better watch yourself, people. So now they have to obviously alter their plans because they had some sort of a plan that involved the three of them and the three cops, including Lamson. But now Lamson's dead, so now they got to alter their plans up in order to get Carol and Beth back to make a fair exchange or whatever. So that's what really happens with that storyline. Then I'm going to move into the storyline that took up so much of this episode. It was so nearly unnecessary. I understand why they did it, and I feel it was, I guess, smart of them to do it. But in the mid-season finale, no. The majority of the episode, guys, focuses on Beth and Dawn and their struggling relationship and that whole dynamic that's going on in Grady Memorial. And I felt it was, one, entirely boring, because I did not care, as you guys remember, I did not care for episode 4, Slaptown, where Beth wakes up in the hospital. That was the weakest episode of the season so far. And to now just have this episode be mostly about Dawn, and mostly about how, her officers are starting to not trust her, and how Beth is starting to be wary of her, and just to have it focus on all of that just didn't work for me. And I honestly started to get really disappointed when it was 9:45-ish, and still they were focusing on this Dawn, Beth, and everyone else in the hospital thing going on. And it was just starting to get on my nerves. And that's why this was a very weak mid-season finale, apart from the very riveting and extremely compelling final 10 minutes of this episode, which were utterly flawless. Not in terms of the way it was shot, because I had a problem with that, but in terms of how, in terms of the story, in terms of the tension that I felt, it was pretty dead on. But to get to that felt like it took forever. Basically, throughout the whole episode, Dawn is panicking because her officers are not answering their radios. Her officers being the 3 that are kidnapped by Rick and the others. And then there's a scene where Beth is looking down an elevator shaft, and Dawn approaches her, and they're having a conversation, and Dawn basically admits to Beth that she knows that Beth killed that one cop. I think his name was Gorman, the cop that tried to rape Beth in Dawn's office. Remember that from the god-awful episode 4? But yeah, Dawn's like, yeah, I knew you killed him. You're a cop killer, which basically means Dawn really can't trust her. And then one of Dawn's other officers, her partner or whatever, I think his name is O'Donnell, comes into the picture, and this guy's a real douche on the loose, and basically gets into an argument with Dawn, and Dawn pulls a gun out on him and is, threatening to kill him and says, it'll only take me to say that you lunged for me, and blah, 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 and he's just basically going on about how Dawn is, him and the other officers believe Dawn is slowly slipping through the cracks. They've seen her sort of like decaying since she took over as the head of Grady. And apparently there was another cop before her, I forget his name, who was the head of Grady before Dawn was, and then something happened to him. I think he was, I honestly forget. The one thing that's really started to bother me in this episode, the whole thing with Dawn mentioning the names of these officers to Beth, I honestly couldn't remember who the names of these officers were. And they're mentioning these names like they've been on the show before. And I'm sure they have, but these characters are just there and then they're just gone. They're not important. So they're mentioning these names as if they're expecting the audience to know and remember these characters. But I don't. I don't remember these characters. Anyway, this O'Donnell cop or whatever his name is, her and Dawn get into a skirmish. They're fist fighting each other. Beth tries to help out. Dawn pushes him near the elevator shaft, and Beth just karate kicks him down the elevator shaft. He falls down. It was pretty funny actually, and I think that moment in itself got Dawn at that moment to really trust in Beth, because Beth kind of just saved her life right there. And of course, Beth isn't going to tell any one of the other officers what's really going on, and blah, blah, blah. So then we have another scene before the final 10 minutes, the heated exchange of Beth and Dawn in this room talking about, they're in Carol's room actually. And Beth is basically going on about how Dawn kind of used her, and etc. And Dawn's basically defending herself. No, I didn't. And then she's again getting into this whole past life, or the past life of the Grady cops, or whatever. I don't know. It was honestly just so slowly paced, and very boring. I was very upset with these scenes. And the most exciting moment of that scene comes at the end when we finally see a shot of Dawn sitting on Carol's bed, and Carol starts to stir and wake up in the bed. And I'm like, yes, finally, we're getting somewhere. But there's these long, drawn-out scenes of dialogue that are trying to develop this character of Dawn and to develop these other cop characters and to really hammer down the point that they don't trust Dawn anymore. She's starting to slip off the deep end. She can't be trusted, blah, 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 etc., etc. And I'm like, that's great, but don't do this in a mid-season finale. I don't know why they decided to do that, honestly. And I was really kind of let down with that, and I told myself, that's poor development on their part. They had several other episodes to build up these characters at this hospital, and I'm sitting there thinking, why couldn't they, instead of having episode 5 be only about Eugene and the group going to Washington, why couldn't they have that about both them and these characters at Grady Memorial, to develop these cops and heighten this tension between Dawn and the other cops? Why couldn't they do that, and heighten this tension between Dawn and Beth? But they didn't. They decided to just slam it all in the mid-season finale, and that was poorly done in my opinion. Anyway, Eventually, Rick shows up and meets with these two other cops and is prepared to do this exchange. And I like this scene interested me because when Rick announced who he was and how he used to work for this for the sheriff's department back in wherever he was stationed in his hometown. Obviously, they weren't in Atlanta. They're in Atlanta now, but there's a shot of one of the cops, and you see a weird reaction on his face, like he's heard Rick's name before, or he's heard of Rick before. So I was kind of hoping that they were going to tie these cops into Rick's past life, that Rick somehow knew these cops, that Rick somehow knew Dawn, but nope. That's alright, though. I was kind of hoping they would go that route, but they didn't. That's fine. I'm not going to hold that against the show. I just thought that was cool. But Rick's basically like, come on, we want our people back. I'm going to wait here. I want this exchange to go down. We'll give you our people back. You give us ours. That's it. Fair deal. So that all leads up until the final 10 minutes. The best part of this episode was the final 10 minutes. I was sitting in my chair as soon as we see Rick, Daryl, Tyrese, and Sasha and Noah enter the hospital with the two hostage cops. I started shaking. I was like, alright, this deal's going down, this exchange is going down, something's going to happen, people are going to die, I can't wait to see what's going to happen. And it was the most exciting, it's probably one of the most tension-filled moments I've had on the show this entire season thus far. And I really liked that feeling. Unfortunately, the whole episode couldn't be like that. Anyway, Rick and the others, they arrive on this floor of the hospital, and they're standing right across from Dawn and her group. There's Dawn and several officers, and you see Beth all dressed up, wheeling Carol in a wheelchair, who's now awake. They're on the side with Dawn and the other cops. Rick is with the two hostage cops and the rest of his group. So Rick comes out in the middle and is basically like, they put their weapons in their holsters and everything. And they're like, come on, we'll give you our people, we'll give you your people, give us our people back. Dawn's like, alright, we'll exchange one for one. So they wheel Carol over, Daryl takes Carol, and Rick lets one of the cops go. And then Beth walks over, and Rick lets the other cop go. Beth walks over, Rick pats her, happy to see her. We think that they're going to get out. As soon as Rick and the gang thought this was over, they didn't even say anything. As soon as Beth went back over, they turned around and got ready to start walking. As soon as that happened, I'm like, nope, this isn't over. Something's going to happen. Someone's going to get killed. There's no way that Dawn is going to just let them leave like this. Something's going on. She wants something. They want something. They're not just leaving like this. Of course, I was right, because literally a second later, Dawn says, well, wait, we want Noah back. And Rick, the tension builds up a little bit. I am sitting on the edge of my seat. I'm getting I'm feeling the chills. I'm feeling that little spine tingling going on. And Rick's like, no, the deal wasn't for him. The deal was for our two people and your two cops. And she's like, well, Noah was part of my unit, my ward. I need him. I just lost Beth. I need Noah back. So Noah actually willingly goes over as Rick and Daryl try to stop him and stop Dawn from getting him, but Noah's like, no, it's alright, it's cool. And they have like a 2-second discussion about how Dawn apparently has ownership over him, and they're like, you don't own him. That's what I'm paraphrasing, of course, but that's what it felt like they said. So Noah walks over, and Beth spots Dawn. Beth's pissed. So Beth walks out to Dawn, and she's like, now I get it. And I think what Beth meant by that was that Dawn kind of was just using Beth to get Noah back. Because once Dawn found out that Beth and Carol knew each other and that Rick and the gang had come for Beth and Carol, Dawn's like, all right, I need someone back. I need Noah. So this angers Beth. And what Beth had done earlier in the episode, that cast she had on her arm, she stuck the scissors that she had wanted to use on that Dr. Gordon guy. She hid the scissors in her cast. So what she does really quickly, and I'm not even kidding you don't even see this happen. She takes the scissors and stabs Dawn in the neck. Dawn, however, apparently had her gun out, and Dawn accidentally, supposedly, fires off the gun and shoots Beth right in the head. And you just see the bullets and the brains flying right out of Beth's head. and my mouth was dropped. I was in utter shock at what I had just witnessed. Beth falls to the ground. You get reaction shots on Rick and Daryl. They are horrified. Daryl steps forward, pulls out a pistol. You see the anger and the intensity in his eyes. Fires a shot right into Dawn's head and kills her. And both sides just freeze. They're in shock at what just happened. And the cops are like, no, it's alright. Don't fire. It's alright. She's dead. We're glad they're basically like, oh, we're glad she's dead. Just take what you have and go. Just go. And the whole group's in shock. Daryl is on the verge of tears. Carol is on the verge of tears. Rick is beyond pissed. Believe me, if Rick was alone, if he wasn't with the rest of his group, he would have just took them all out if he could have. That's Rick. But yeah, Beth was killed off. And I think it was an interesting way for Beth to go out. I am not surprised that Beth is dead, because I honestly saw her death coming either now or at the end of the season. This season really focused on her, especially in episode 4 and last week's episode, and even a little bit in episode 6, a little bit. She had a much greater, a bigger emphasis was on her in the second half of season 4 when her and Daryl were alone. So I kind of knew this was coming. I don't think it was a huge shock. However, I wasn't expecting it to happen at that direct moment. Did I know someone was going to die? Yes. Did I know it was going to be Beth at that exact moment? Probably not. So both Beth and Dawn bit the dust, and Rick and the gang, they leave with Noah. And the final scene of the episode, before the epic post-credit scene, before that happens, Abraham and the group arrive in the fire truck in Atlanta. They walk over to Grady. How did they know how to get there? Yeah, how did they know how to go to the hospital? None of them ever went to that hospital. Unless one of them has a knowledge of that area and knows where that hospital is, then how did they know how to get there? Unless Rick told Michonne how to get there. I don't know. Anyway, they pull up. That's not important. And Maggie's so hopeful. She's like, oh, yes, I'm going to get Beth back. They see the group walk out one by one. And then Maggie breaks when she sees Daryl walking out holding Beth's body. It was a really, really sad and depressing moment. Maggie just falls to the floor in tears. And Glenn is trying to comfort her, and the episode cuts out on the wide shot of the whole group standing in front of the hospital. So I loved the final 10 minutes. I loved the ending. Got to talk about the post-credit scene real quick with one of my favorite characters on this show, who has only been on this show for 2 episodes so far, and that is, well, 4 episodes so far now, and that is Morgan. We get another post-credit scene with Morgan, and we see him exploring the area around the church and around that elementary school where they had the barbecue. He actually finds the area where they had the barbecue, and then goes over to the church and goes inside, sees all the walkers, and Morgan kneels down at the altar and puts a few things on it, and then spots a map on the floor, goes over to it, opens it up, and sees the message that Abraham wrote to Rick on that map at the end of episode 3. If you remember, when Abraham and the group left to go on that trip to Washington, Abraham gave a copy of the map to DC to Rick with a message saying, we're all going to need Rick Grimes. So Morgan sees this, he sees Rick's name, and then his eyes go slightly wide, and it cuts to black. I love that moment. I got chills when I saw Morgan come back. I can't wait for him to reunite with this group. I know it's going to happen in the second half. And so that was the whole episode. So in the end, guys, here's what I have to say about the mid-season finale. It had its moments. There were some very, very slow, long, drawn-out, boring moments in this episode that I really didn't care for. This is definitely not the best episode of the season. This is not even close to last season's mid-season finale, and definitely not even close to the mid-season finale of season 3 when Rick and the others storm Woodbury. Doesn't even come close. I'm sorry, guys. In terms of action and excitement, not even close. This episode really took a while to get going for me, and once it got going, it was the final 10 minutes, which were absolutely riveting. One of the best moments of the whole season so far, but because it's only 10 minutes of the whole episode, just that one moment, that was my favorite part of the episode. I'm not going to go high with my score. In the end, I am going to go with a solid 8.5 out of 10, or a grade of a B for this episode. I was a little let down with it. I definitely wanted more for a mid-season finale. Nevertheless, the last 10 minutes were riveting enough. Also, another little complaint I have, apart from the boring, slow scenes throughout the middle of the episode, the last 10 minutes, although I loved them and I was completely on the edge of my seat, they were filmed very oddly. I don't know whose choice it was to have the camera like this for the whole... I'm not even joking with you. The camera was at every single shot of the exchange going down, of Rick and the group letting the cops go to the other side, or Dawn letting Beth and Carol go to the other side. Every single shot is shot at a tilted angle. Why they decided to do that, I don't know. It reminded me of when I was watching Thor. I don't know. It was an odd decision. I'm not saying it was a bad decision. I'm not saying it was hard to pay attention to what happened because of that decision to film the episode, the scene like that. But it was just very weird, and I don't get it. But other than that, guys, I enjoyed the episode. I wanted more from it. I was definitely shocked by Beth's death, and I think it was a good time to kill her off. And it's opening a lot of questions, too, for what's going to happen to Maggie next season. I know Maggie has barely mentioned Beth, but Beth still is her sister, so this is going to affect her. And I know they're going to focus a few episodes on this affecting Maggie. And I think we may see this affect her more than Herschel's death. Because if you remember correctly, when Herschel died, we had the whole separation from the rest of the group, Maggie trying to find Glenn, so she completely forgot about Herschel. Now, Maggie's with Glenn, but now she has to deal with Beth's death. And the fact that the group is going to be moving on. They're leaving the church. They're going to be trying to find a new safe haven, obviously. And Beth's not going to be a part of that. That's really going to tear Maggie apart. I'm really interested to see where they're going to go with that. Other than that, guys, decent mid-season finale. I love the post-credits. The whole final 10 minutes were just perfect. Walking Dead. Masterclass suspense. For The Walking Dead at its finest, you know? I mean, you can't get better Walking Dead. It's a shame the rest of the episode wasn't like that. So, guys, what did you think of the mid-season finale? Let me know down below in the comments. Are you happy Beth is... or what do you think of Beth's death? It's always sad to see a character go, and I'm definitely saddened by Beth's death, but I'm not... I would have been a lot more sad if it was Carol or another major character. Beth is still a major character, don't get me wrong, but I never connected with Beth probably as much as maybe some other people did. I mean, I still liked Beth, but, you know, I'm glad it wasn't, say, Carol or Daryl or Rick, for that matter, you know. Of all the ones who could have gotten killed off, I'm glad it wasn't one of them. Nevertheless, it was still emotional. It was still a very somber, touching moment, and I still definitely was affected by it, and I thought they did a good job. It's unfortunate we're not going to have her on the show anymore, but you got to do what you got to do. And I'm glad we're done with this cop storyline because it was starting to get on my nerves. So anyway, guys, again, leave me your thoughts down below on this episode, and thanks so much for watching my review, and leave your predictions for the second half of the season. I'm interested to know what you guys have to say. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.